How's it hanging today, book bros? I'm Belchi, and this is a book. Coincidentally, it's the same book we're going to be talking about today. And book bros, let me take a second to welcome you to Foundation Friday! Yeah, the Foundation, the show, on Apple TV Plus, whatever it's called, the Apple thing. It's out now, so that's exciting. And today we're going to talk about the first installment in the Foundation novels. Something I didn't know until I finished this book was that originally the sections within this book were published as short stories. Foundation was never really a novel until he had already completed a trilogy of books out of the short stories, and then he started writing Foundation. And wow, that makes a lot more sense. I can now look back on the book and take away some of my negatives, because originally thinking that this was a novel and not basically a short story collection, I was like, hey, Asimov, can you focus on like one character? That'd be great, buddy. But I realize now that's not supposed to be the case. You're not supposed to be focused on one person. And Foundation isn't a character-driven story. It's a idea-driven story. And I love it. I ended up loving it because the idea behind it is so cool and it's very timely. It's interesting they're making a show about this now because it's very timely. That's all I'll say. For those of you who don't know, I will give a quick synopsis of what Foundation is about. Hari Seldon is a scientist who deals with psychohistory. Sorry, I need a little refresher. Hari Seldon deals with psychohistory, and he is able to predict the future by using high-level mathematics and science. It's not an accurate or for sure prediction, but we're pretty sure it's gonna be right. And what basically happens, and what the main thrust of the story is Foundation itself. The idea of a bunch of scientists and really smart people coming together to work on what is basically an encyclopedia of everything that you would ever need to know for future generations, because Hari Seldon, with his mathematics, predicts that there will be a great catastrophe that ruins mankind, and we will need all of this knowledge for a future day. I honestly butchered the synopsis of this book. I apologize for hardcore fans because that was a butchering of that. So Foundation isn't really about people. It is on the large scale, but it's more or less about society and government and religion and capitalism. Really heavy topics, but Asimov never really forces you to really focus on this stuff. He goes, hey, here's the point. This is really just a cool sci-fi though. And I love that. I love that Asimov is really trying to show you problems with these things and how they work and how they influence us, but he's also delivering a really good story at the same time. All right, so the first short story in here, the one where you're initially getting the premise of Foundation, the idea that everything's based off of. Wow. I was sold on this book very, very quickly. Meeting Hari Seldon, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, meeting Seldon and Grawl and the whole introduction to what Foundation is, very well done. It starts with kind of like this space trial, and there's a little bit of conspiracy, and I was very surprised at how well Asimov can tell a story in so few pages. The dude is a well-known guy for a reason. The other part of this book I'm going to talk about is part 2 and part 3, the encyclopedists and the mayors. Mayor Hardin is one of the best characters I think I've read this year. I may be jumping the gun on that, but he's up there. He pulls off one of the best logical moves in this book. He finds a way around using violence, which is something, I'm going to talk briefly about this. Something I absolutely love is that Asimov tries every which way to move away from violence and use thought to avoid conflict, because that's what Foundation is about, avoiding conflict. And Hardin is a perfect example of why that is so cool. Because I find in most fantasy, maybe I've just been reading a lot of Joe Abercrombie lately, but it's always resorting to violence. I like books every once in a while that rely on the good old brain to get out of a situation, and this book is very much one of those books. But part 2 and part 3 really show the scale and the direction that Foundation is going. And after that first part, where you're really on the edge of your seat, part 2 and part 3 take some time to go, hey, settle down. Settle down. And then the end of part 3 kind of ramps up and says, whoa, 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 whoa. Anyway, that's enough of vague descriptions of how I felt emotionally through this book. This hasn't been the best review on my channel, but I do want to say, if you're looking for a sci-fi that has a lot of really good ideas and a lot of timely conversations, I would point to Foundation in a heartbeat. I think at least this first book is a great sci-fi read, and it kept me very engaged the whole time. I am usually a character reader, and yes, I will say that kind of took away a little bit from the book, but wow. Foundation and its ideas are very well represented. And Isaac Asimov is a big name in the sci-fi world for a good reason. I'm not going to dispute that. I'm very happy that I finally picked up one of those classic sci-fis. And, you know, even though at times it does have that vintage feeling, or maybe it's just a little bit out of touch, it remains very, very timely. I can't say that enough. I think a lot more people should be picking up Foundation. All right, well, that has been my thoughts on Foundation by Isaac Asimov. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read Foundation. What were your thoughts on the book? Hey, what are your thoughts on the show coming out today? Are you excited? Do you think it looks bad? Personally, I'm pretty excited. I'll probably be watching when this video goes out. So if you want to see a show review of Foundation, let me know. I'd gladly do that. Any book bros, just drop a comment. That's all. You know, just drop one. Not on the floor, but in the comment section. And while you're down there, consider subscribing. You know, couldn't hurt. I'm funny. Yeah. And I review books. I don't really know how to sell myself, but subscribe, please. Maybe like this video too. And with all that being said, Book Bros, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you on the flip side.